go ahead and call this regularly scheduled board meeting to order. The first item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Second item is approval of the minutes. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, board members, we have a number of fun recognitions tonight, students, staff. It's a wide range, but a fun time to get to do this. And our first group are our resident artists in Vestavia Hill City Schools. We've got a good number on the line with us today. We have some of their teachers with us as well. I'm seeing some right now, so I'm not sure who all is out there, but I see you students and I see teachers. And I want to brag on you just a little bit. We recently submitted about 20 student artwork pieces for the 2021 State Superintendents Visual Art Exhibit. And so I want to read to you who all the students are and the grade that they're in, the school that they're in, and their artwork piece. And then I recognize two that had some attention given to them at the state level. So from the freshman campus, we have Kate Rhodes, who did Rainbow Flowers, Michael Helton, who did The Veil. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, we got to see these. And Holland Backus, who did Planets of Wonder. Aren't these amazing? Yeah, let's go back to Kate Rhodes because I went too fast through Kate's. All right. From Pizitz Middle School, we have Chloe McCormick. She's an 8th grader. And here's her work. And Jaylee Brantley, who's a 7th grader, and her work's titled A Sea of Color. And let me say again, these are 9th, 8th, and 7th graders. Isn't that amazing? It's really good. Okay, from Liberty Park Middle School, got Kate Hurst. She's an 8th grader, and her work is Inside Out. And from Liberty Park, Lindsay Buby. Forgive me, Lindsay, if I pronounced your name incorrect. She's a 7th grader, dissociative identity disorder. That's really something. All right, from Vestavia Hills West, Elementary West, we have Mary Owen Schultz, who's a 4th grader, and she did Autumn Still Life. And from Vestavia Hills West, we have Ella Schmidt, who's a 5th grader. She did Watercolor Leaves. From Vestavia Hills Elementary East, Carolyn Woods, a 2nd grader. She did a peacock named Patch. And also from East, Abby Drew Smith. She's a 3rd grader, and she did Izzy. And finally from East, we have Riley Dodd, who's a 4th grader, who did Pumpkin of Zen. Great. From Dolly Ridge, 4th grader, Avie Thompson, who did Wild Gardens. And also from Dolly Ridge, Coley Ann Cahoon, she's a 5th grader, did Get Along. And from Dolly Ridge, Julia James, 5th grader, who did African Path. From Vestavia Hills Elementary Liberty Park, Libby Abbott, 5th grader, did Rose Guitar. And circle back to the freshman campus, Hannah Gidley. She's, of course, a 9th grader, and she did The Eye. That's really. And so we had 2 of our resident artists who got state recognition. One is Cecilia Kong. She's a senior at Vestavia Hills High School, and she received honorable mention in the 11th, 12th grade division for an untitled piece with graphite. That's amazing. And Esther Lee, who's also a high school senior at Vestavia Hills High School, she received second place in the 11th, 12th grade division for an untitled Prismacolor piece. I just have to say, I'm blown away with how impressive this artwork is. And we can see you now, students that are with us, just unbelievable work that you did. Congratulations on all of this. And so we've shown all of these pictures to our board members. Hopefully our community folks have seen it, but kudos to you and to your art teachers who have led you so well. Thank you for making this an important part of what we do in Vestavia Hills City Schools. Visual arts is just amazing, and it particularly is when you see the talent that our kids have. So great work, guys. Appreciate it so much. All right. I'd like to next recognize Vestavia Hills Elementary West, who has been recently named an Alabama School of Character, and that's a recognition by character.org. Kim Hauser is on the line, and I think Susan McCall may be with us as well. Would you, Kim or Susan, would you enlighten the board on what this recent honor means for your school?
Sure, we're super excited about the state award, and then the next step is to go on to national. We love to have smart kids and academically wise kids. We also want children that have a kind heart and good character. When we always thought we were on that path, but in conjunction with the Hope Institute through our district and character.org about 3 years ago, we realized we were missing some pieces, and we put some things in place to be more intentional with good character, and had to write about 11 essays to apply. And we were the only elementary school in Alabama that was accepted this go round. And so we're super excited for the recognition of the good things that go on in our building.
Well, informally, I know all of our schools, I think, are fantastic places for teaching character. As a father, I can say that confidently as I can as a superintendent. The School of Character designation is the second one in our district that we have at character.org. And so it's a really fantastic accomplishment. And the West Way is something that you hear all the time when you walk the halls. Congratulations, Kim, Susan, the entire West staff, well deserved.
Thank you.
Okay. As you may know, this is a month that we celebrate career and technical education across the United States. We have continued to expand offerings in career technical programming in our system, and one of those areas is in a construction area of career technical, and we have students that go to the Academy of Craft Training. Sometimes you may hear it referred to as ACT, but it's the Academy of Craft Training that's in downtown Birmingham. And we have had 2 students this year who have been named Employees of the Month. And so our students that attend this are actually employees. And I don't know if Margaret Ann Denton is with us, Dr. Cooper, of course, our career tech director, but Ms. Denton is responsible for making sure these students get to the right places and are a part of this. And I see Ms. Denton's on with us. And I want to recognize these folks. Ms. Denton, if you're able to speak, if you want to speak about them, you can. But Chase Ivy and Brennan Lightsey have been honored as Employees of the Month at the Academy of Craft Training. Brennan's a senior. He was recognized in November as Employee of the Month for excellence in welding. And Chase is a junior. He was recognized in January for excellence in interior and exterior finishes. Congratulations to both of you. Margaret, are you out there?
I'm out here. Thank you
Okay,
so much.
good.
It's such a cool program that we partner with at our school, and I'm just really proud of these students and everything that they accomplished at the Academy of Craft Training.
Well, congratulations on the program and the number of students that continue to be involved in it. I appreciate Chase and Brennan both being good representatives during those months to be recognized that way. Our last group board members is our school counseling team, Vestavia Hills School Counseling Team. And this month, early in the month, in fact, at the first week of February, is celebrated as National School Counseling Week. And our school counselors are those quiet warriors that are working behind the scenes in many cases to provide the well-rounded support and needs that our students have. You're certainly all very familiar with the work that they do. And so we want to recognize them of all years. This has been one of those years where I think the relevancy of school counseling has only been magnified. So I'm so pleased that this board has for many years supported that in the schools. And so I want to, before introducing them, I wanted to ask Ms. Jennifer Bailey to offer a few words. As Director of Student Supports, she works closely with our counseling team, and I just wanted her to say a few things about it.
Dr. Freeman had a meeting with the counselors earlier, and so I could go on and on about the incredible things that they do and really extraordinary supports that they've provided, not just for our students and families this year, but also for our teachers. I, in fact, had a teacher Friday tell me that she would not have made it through this year had it not been for the school counselor. But what I think is most profound is like the words that they use in the meeting that we had a couple of weeks ago. Dr. Freeman asked why they do what they do. And so many of them said to be that one advocate for some students. You know, a lot of our students may not have someone who stands in the gap for them, and these counselors do that. And that's who they seek to be for students and for families. They want to provide the support that students need to be successful academically, but also so that they can achieve at high levels and be healthy socially and emotionally. And like Dr. Freeman said, this year that has been more evident than ever. And we know, and we've talked about it over and over, that our kids couldn't be learning in hangouts remotely or in the classrooms without our counselors meeting their emotional needs. So I will close with that, but I will say that our high school was just recently recognized. You know, we've had schools of character recognized this year, and in recent years, our counselors are such critical members of those teams. But our high school was just recognized as a RAMP award winner, and they will be recognized at the National School Counselor Association Conference this summer, and that is a really distinguished award. Some of our other programs are applying for recognition in various ways, but just kudos to them for that recognition of their hard work. So I'm thankful to get to work with them.
Thank you, Ms. Bailey. And RAMP designation means Recognized ASCA Model Program, which I think is like a 5-year designation, if I got that right. So well deserved, and congratulations. All right, well, let's hear who our counselors are. I'll make sure you know who our folks out there doing the good work are. Kelsey Brown is at East. Emily Burt is at East and West. Don Norris is at West. Emily Vines is at Liberty Park Elementary. Marla Hatch is at Liberty Park Elementary and Dolly Ridge. Kelly Knight is at Dolly Ridge. Courtney McKinney is at Cava Heights. Carrie Howard is at Liberty Park Middle. Trey Munger, Liberty Park Middle. Becca Poe, Chase Hodge, and Amber Payne are at Pizitz Middle. Brandon Boggs, Anna Denary, Christine Rowling, Kylie Reagan, Derry Howard, Oliver Aaron, Megan Drum, Sherilyn Dovey, and Barbara Gaeski are at high school and freshman campus. And Anna Gaston is our system student assistant counselor who's all over the place. But this is a fine, distinguished team, and they just do excellent work. And I really had the privilege of sitting in on some meetings this year to watch what they're doing. And I can tell you, this is such a good investment for our school system to have this team out there. So congratulations on a great year and your commitment. So we are so appreciative. Okay. I hope you'll hang on with us, counselors, and whoever else. You're welcome to stay online with us for the rest of the meeting. And if you have to go do some other things, we understand that too. All right. Okay, board members, we'll move to item 5 under financial statement and ask Ms. Brown to give us an update.
Good afternoon. I provided the January 2021 financial statements and check register for your review. As of January 2021, we have collected 59.6% of our budgeted ad valorem tax revenues compared to 53.5% that we had received this time last year. While our collections for January are up from last year, the February collections as of this date are almost equal. So I think it's just due to the mail and the lag in collections that we see throughout the county. Our total expenditures were 34.8% of the budget compared to 36.7% last year. So if all things were equal, we would be at 33.3% at this point. So having 34.8% at the end of January is a good indicator for this state. And all board bank accounts have been reconciled as of January 31st, 2021.
Thank you. I recommend the board approve the financial statement for January 2021.
You've heard the superintendent's recommendation. Do we have a motion to approve? So moved. Second,
Second.
any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Item 6, I recommend the board approve consent items related to an out-of-state trip and disposal of property.
For the superintendent's recommendation, do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
any discussion?
I do want to stipulate that the out-of-state trip is not an overnight trip. I've not brought to you any approval recommendations yet for out-of-state trips and don't have intentions to at this point. It's admittedly frustrating for our kids, and that's a difficult situation to be in this spring. But as of at this point, I haven't brought any to you, just given the nature of the situation. But just clarification on that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Item 7 under business, item A. I recommend the board approve budget amendment number 1.
You've heard the superintendent's recommendation. Do we have a motion to approve? So moved. Second,
Second.
discussion?
During the course of the year, there are usually 1 or 2 budget amendments that have to do with reconcile revenues, expenditures. So Ms. Brown, if you just a brief update of what this amendment looks like.
Well, I provided the summary of all the changes that were a part of this budget amendment. The net result was an increase in revenues over expenditures of approximately $308,000, which leaves us with a projected ending fund balance of $7.3 million as a result of this budget amendment, which puts us at 1.1 months of our reserve, with 1 month being approximately $6.6 million. As soon as we have more certainty from the legislature about our ETF ANT allocation, I will bring another budget amendment before you to approve, and it will also reflect a $650,000 ESSER reserve award that we received from the state that's not reflected in this budget amendment. So with those 2 items added for the next amendment, we should end at 1.46 months of our fund balance. And hopefully at that time too, I can maybe increase our local revenues a little bit based on actual collections that come in. So we can do budgets, submit budgets amendments to the state as needed through June 15th. So you'll see probably more than you have in the past from me with all the changes coming about this year.
That's positive momentum too. Appreciate that.
So the goal is still to get to 2, right?
Yes.
That's kind of the goal, but we're really solid.
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Item B, I recommend the board approve the low bid from Wyatt General Contractor in the amount of $244,077 for the library renovation at Vestavia Hills Elementary, Dollar Ridge.
For the superintendent's recommendation, do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
discussion?
Dr. Martin, what are we doing?
All right, so if you can picture the fine arts round over at Dolly Ridge Elementary School, the library, now we're actually going to merge the library and the room next to it. Take the furniture out that is dated, put new furniture in, cosmetically change things such as ceiling grid, LED lights, carpet, other finishes, and just give it a polish up for that building.
And this is, several of these items are things that we knew, such as Dolly Ridge, when we purchased the building, this
That's
would
right.
need to be done in the future, and we're starting to tackle those lists.
That's right, and our plan was actually to do this last summer, but with the events that took place, that's why we punted and doing it this summer. So, and I'll just mention with that number, there is a $50,000 allowance for moving logistics and other items included in that number.
All in favor?
Item C, I recommend the board approve the low bid from Duncan and Thompson Construction Services LLC in the amount of $195,697 for the library renovation at Vestavia Hills Elementary East.
You've heard the superintendent's recommendation. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Discussion?
Same situation, not as extensive because we're not merging two buildings, just a really freshening up of that site.
All in favor?
Item D, I recommend the board approve the low bid from David Acton Building Corporation in the amount of $176,000 for the library renovation at Vestavia Hills Elementary West.
You've heard the superintendent's recommendation. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second. Any discussion on this?
West is gonna be a more similar project to what East is now.
Dr. Martin, on these various bids that we're looking at, looking over the bids, it looks like we've got probably about 65% bid participation of the contractors. I think each of them average about 7 contractors, and we may have gotten 4 bids. So, yes, how do we go about generating those contractors to submit bids?
That's something where we would rely on Lathan and Associates to support us with that, making sure that they're out putting us on the street, trying to solicit as much competitive bidding as possible.
Okay.
So,
Thank you.
I would say 4 is a pretty good showing on these.
they were pretty pleased, yes.
Yeah, actually, it's pretty good that we have different contractors on these jobs because we're going to build them during the summer. We need to be ready to go.
Small one.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Just as an aside to these three, what you're beginning to see, Steve alluded to, is we're starting to begin to look at some of our older campuses. And there's some strategic things we're doing. Library renovations affect all of our children. That's a good thing. And these are 3 libraries that need some refreshing, so to speak. And we don't have furniture costs included in this. That will come as well, but that's a separate item of purchase. But as we start moving through the coming months, I'll talk with you more about general capital planning, the long-term planning data that we have put together, and probably as early as next month, probably bring you a report around energy management. But just to let you know that we're beginning to start looking at these areas for programming. The other thing I would say about this is normally there's a contract that's attached to an agenda with a bid item such as this. These contracts are going to be executed through the Public School College Authority, or PSCA, you may hear me say that. And so that's because it's being funded through capital bond money from the state. So it has an extra step it has to go through. So in order to begin to move this project forward, to get it done in the summer, we've asked you to approve bids. Contracts will be coming, and we'll do like we always do, ask you to approve contracts as well. Just want you to know, or that's a little bit slower. Item E, I recommend the board approve an update to the job description for Director of Assessment and Accountability.
You've heard the superintendent's recommendation. Do we have a motion to approve? So moved. Second. Discussion.
This is a job description we've had for some time. We've not actually used it on its own, but assessment is one of those areas that does require some attention. In years past, we've used contracted staff to do the assessment work. I anticipate that need only growing, and so we wanted to bring this out and sharpen the qualifications up for it in the future, because I do anticipate the need for it. So, effectively, we would not look to be adding additional staffing. We would look at reorganizing.
And this is assessment across the system.
It is.
All in favor?
Item F, I recommend the board approve Roger Dobnikar as principal of Liberty Park Middle School effective July 1st, 2021.
You've heard the superintendent's recommendation. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
I'd just like to let you know about the process we used to make the determination that I'm bringing to you tonight. Of course, you know, Mr. Donald was placed in an interim principal role at the beginning of the school year and has performed a great service, I think, to the system. Has ran the school very well. Has had a great team and partnership in the system, and our teachers there have been excellent, as they have in all our schools. But we have to go through a required process of interviews. So Mr. Donald, like others, applied for the position, and we do our interviews like we always do interviews. And so I started that with a conversation with Liberty Park Middle School staff about 2 weeks ago, looking for their feedback on what their interests were and what we should consider for the principal position, particularly the qualities of effective principalship. And we followed that up with Dr. Rainey and her team, which was included some central office members and parents on that team that conducted interviews. And we narrowed the list of applicants that applied to 4, and 4 were interviewed for that particular round. And then I had subsequent interviews with 2 finalists. And following that, of course, we do our typical reference checks and certifications, et cetera. So same process that we always use to arrive at this point. And I was very pleased with the result of the interviews, and certainly been pleased with the work Mr. Donald has done this year. So what you have in front of you is a 1-year probationary contract.
I think, you know, every time we go into these, I think it just speaks volumes about the system that we always consistently end up with very, very strong pools. And it's important to recognize how those play out throughout the whole system and the strengths of the whole system. So I appreciate the diligence in the process. All in favor?
Aye.
Item G, I recommend the board approve the ParentStephen Handbook for the 2021-22 school year.
You've heard the superintendent's recommendation. Do we have a motion to approve?
So
Second? Second. Any discussion on this?
Well, I thought I'd just ask about running just a little brief, or Ms. Bailey, just a little brief intro to you about the process to arrive at bringing you this document each year, just so you know what takes place. You have the information about the changes. There were a few minor adjustments to some of the language, and I did address one in there relative to the discipline infraction to make sure it was lined up with more policy. But so generally speaking, I wanted you to hear the process that gets us to that point. So that's you, Ms. Bailey?
I've asked Ms. Okay, sure. Yeah, we actually provide the handbook each year to all the administrators in the district, assistant principals and principals, and have them review it. And usually though, you'll see all the notes that I have, they'll keep a running list of things that they feel like we need to address as a committee. And so we all come together, they propose revisions or updates, and we discuss those as a team before we make any revisions like that. And I update and review it. But we also rely on district administrators as well. Dr. Martin will look through things and confirm those. Brooke Brown, for example, or Brooke Wedgeworth, for example, will look at the curriculum components and grading scales and ensure that the most updated information from the state is reflected in there. And even Mr. Callahan will look at EDP. Nurse Brenda looks at the nursing and health components of the handbook. So it's very comprehensive in terms of, you know, does this reflect our board policy? Is it aligned with that? And does it accurately reflect our practice? And so, you know, as the year goes on, there may be adjustments that we see that need to be made. And then, like Dr. Freeman said, if the state mandates something mid-year, then we come back together, talk through that, and make that update. So it is subject to have to be updated mid-year or sometime throughout the course of the academic year, but that's our process each spring for updating it. And we update it so early so that it's ready for the registration process.
I appreciate that.
I like the central point of contact being you in the book.
You like that?
This book's good through all the past year.
I'm anticipating a much calmer year next year with less schedule changes and all that stuff. Any other questions? Okay, all in favor?
Thank you. Item 8 is personnel, and I recommend the board approve the personnel actions as submitted.
You've heard the superintendent's recommendation. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
like to finish up our meeting just with with our monthly review of attendance, just so you can see what that looks like as it relates to COVID absences. And then ask Dr. Rainey to share with you some information about the vaccine clinic we had for employees last week. So I won't go through, of course, every detail of this, but I think seeing this graph is probably the best way to describe attendance data. This is showing, of course, absenteeism related to quarantine, and that's in the red. And the absenteeism for students related to actual diagnosis of COVID, as far as we know it, is in the blue. The positive, of course, is since our last meeting, when you saw this data in January, our numbers have continued to decrease. That is a market significant decrease to what we've seen. And it's at its lowest point that it's been since early in the year, around September for us. That's tracking very similar to what we see across the nation and in our state, in our county. So those are all positive numbers. And we hope it continues to go in that pattern. I'm optimistic that it will. So hopefully the data will continue to hold that way. But once you see that, and also some markers at the bottom, but let's scroll down to that last bit of information that you see. And by the way, we do post that along with this information on our website for folks to see it if they'd like to. Percentage estimate of students with COVID-19 positive since August 20th, 7%. Percentage estimate of students quarantined for close contact since August 20th, 28%. Let me remind you that that could include some who've had more than one quarantine for close contact, and it does, in fact. Percentage estimate of students who test positive after close contact, that is 0.27%. That continues to be a very positive number for us. A percentage of staff with COVID-19 positive since August 20th, 12.8%. And staff who quarantined because of close contact, 31.7%. So they track similar to what we see with student data. And you can see the numbers on below that I think we have, yeah. So these are the ones that we provide as well that are just by school. And you'll have occasionally some fluctuations in the schools with positive and quarantine. But that's averaged out, of course, over the entire year. The one I think that's most appropriate to see is total positive exposure to these schools have certainly remained very low. One of the points I will make this time is the total percent quarantine. I can only speak to this anecdotally, but I would tell you that the work of our teachers and our nurses in doing this contact tracing and determining exposures, that is a percentage that could be significantly higher if our teachers weren't doing a great job in classrooms, minimizing exposure in close contact, and our nurses weren't doing a good job of contact tracing. That would look very different. And our end goal all along has been to have our students in school. And so we've been able to continue to do that, and hopefully our numbers will keep trending in the direction they are now. So another important part of well, let me stop there just in case you have questions on it. We'll move over to vaccine clinics. So an important part, obviously, our whole plan has been safety for our students and our staff. And obviously now, since our educator employees are eligible for COVID-19 vaccines, we wanted to make that opportunity available as it would be possible to do. And we were able to make that happen last week, the first round of what will be obviously 2 rounds of COVID vaccine. And we held a clinic at the campus of Cahaba Heights for employees who wished to do the vaccine, and that was this past Friday. I asked Dr. Rainey to share with you about it. She organized it, put it together, and deserves so much of the credit for making it all happen and getting a large team mobilized to get across the finish line. So I wanted her to share with you just about the day and what it took to get us there.
Thank you. First of all, I just want to thank Dr. Freeman for trusting me to coordinate this event and for securing a partner so that we could do the event. We had been wanting to do this for some time, and we're struggling being able to find a partner to provide the number of vaccines that we needed. But Dr. Freeman, he worked his magic and secured a partner for us to be able to provide the vaccine. So I just want to thank him for doing that. Nurse Brenda was amazing. She and our district nurses, her team that she assembled, They just did a fantastic job. Dr. Freeman often and fondly refers to our nursing staff as angels on earth. And so they just really did a fabulous job. Nurse Brenda was a tremendous leader in this effort, working nights and weekends, coordinating with Dr. Stansel and Coosa Valley on being able to provide the vaccines for our staff. And even to the point of after the vaccine clinic, following up with Dr. Stansel and Coosa Valley to make sure that we didn't have any employees over the weekend reporting symptoms, that she could, check on our employees. So I can't tell you the care that she and the leadership that she has exhibited in this process. Dr. Martin and his team for helping prepare the facility and standing out in the cold for parking, and Dr. Hunsberger and her school for hosting the event during the school day. So that they just made it such a smooth process. All of the principals for the hours spent over the weekend with meetings and creating schedules to provide time for employees to leave and come to the clinic during the school day. This event was synchronous. It was just an orchestrated operation involving not only the clinic site, but 9 locations that were having school that day. So I just cannot begin to express the thanks and gratitude to all the principals and their administrative staff for working with us to make the event so seamless. The central office staff, every hand here at the central office has touched the event in some way, whether it was working a station or ordering tablecloths to coordinating agendas, rosters, making labels for staff badges. Every hand here at the central office touched the event. Amy Barber and Meredith Hanson, they just did an outstanding job working with principals, creating schedules, typing rosters, labels, and more. Whit McGee for signage and communication. Schneider Electric was our partner to provide meals for the staff members that were working that day. We had 9 stations, 67 staff members working the event, and we were able to provide over 800 vaccinations. And, starting at 9 o'clock, and our last group came through at 2:30. So it was very much it took a lot of people to pull this off in such a seamless, organized manner, but it was such a great day. And I think the best quote that I heard from the day was, "It was a joyful day like Christmas morning, smiles and happy tears."
Right.
So it was a great day.
Thank you. Just so appreciate the partnership we had with Coosa Valley Medical Center, providing that, our stencils office, and all the members of the team that Dr. Rainey's talking about. So it was a really good day. And we'll do another one on March 12th, on Friday.
I just want to say thank you to all of you guys, because I think whenever anything looks seamless, it's because there's been a ton of work behind the scenes to make it look that way. And I think, since March, we were hit with this thing that we didn't have a playbook for. and since the very beginning, since the day that the schools had to close, it was how do we reopen safely for the students and the teachers and the staff. And that has been, the top priority every step of the way. And I feel like this was just the last piece to get us towards the end that we want to get to eventually. Just tremendous job from everybody.
Do you know if the Department of Public Health, Alabama, are they working, so as the state gets teachers vaccinated, are they going to adjust quarantining guidelines?
Yeah, I don't know. I do know that I saw an update just a little before I came in that's coming this Friday for superintendents. I don't know what that means, if there are adjustments coming relative to quarantine. They adopted some of the CDC recommendations in December with the 10-day. They didn't recommend the 7-day part. So I'm not sure there'll be an adjustment there. I think there probably is some. I hope that at some point they look at the social distance requirements, masking. Of course, that's a governor's decision at this point. But so I don't know, but my guess is those conversations are starting to be had. Optimistically, that in the fall we have what looks to be a more normal look to school. hope that's the case.
And Steve will be on your watch.
Yes.
To be determined.
If there's no other business, we have a few minutes. Do we have any public comment? Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Adjourn.